Hello everybody, welcome back to what is obviously another unboxing. I received a very special deck in the mail yesterday from Italy, and I can't hold off on opening this deck, so another unboxing it is. Some of you have already seen this package over on my Instagram feed and have correctly identified the deck that is inside by the return address here. It is, of course, the Daniloff Tarot from Alexander Daniloff. I cheated a little bit and already cut open the package, but I, as you can see, have not broken into the deck yet. So you can see that the deck came very well packed, covered in thin cardboard here, but then also, of course, ubiquitous bubble wrap, and came in a bubble wrapped mailer. In addition, the deck was sent out super quickly and it arrived in less than a week from Italy for a fairly reasonable shipping rate, if I do say so myself. So without further ado, let's get into this package. So Alexander Daniloff offers a few editions of his tarot decks on his website. This is the second edition of the Tarot by Alexander Daniloff 2012, which is the full 78 card deck. He also offers a printing of the Majors Only deck, which is a limited edition run. This is also a limited edition run, but with slightly more copies, I believe. I don't remember how many in total. So a little bit of background for those of you who don't know what this deck is. This is a tarot deck that was created by an Italian artist, Alexander Daniloff. It's my understanding that Alexander is not a tarot reader, but was an artist that took an interest in tarot based on the imagery and symbolism that he saw there, and was intrigued by the story that each of the cards told and wanted to make his own depictions of those stories, that symbolism, and those meanings. So I think it's time to get into this deck. As you can see, this is not a normal tuck box, but rather on the back here, the flap is tucked in. That has to be pulled out. And the deck opens from the side. I guess you can open the entire thing. And the deck is inside. I am going to set this packaging aside so we have a little more room to work with here. Let's first of all take a look at the card backs. As you can see, it mimics what was on the outside of the packaging, and it looks like it is completely reversible. And this is a gorgeous illustration. What really drew me to this deck was the inspiration that Alexander Daniloff drew from medieval imagery. I'm a fan of medieval and Renaissance art, and the images that I've seen of the illustrations for this deck remind me a lot of those illustrations that you might find in alchemical texts of the Renaissance period. So why don't we turn this over and get started with our walkthrough. So right away you can see that the titles on the cards are, of course, in Italian. There is no guidebook with this deck. It is simply the deck with Italian titles. So the meanings will have to be drawn from standard Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations, and of course the imagery and symbolism contained within the cards themselves. And so first up we have the Fool. I very much enjoy the fact that he is kind of walking this tightrope of a branch between two cliffs. And I also kind of enjoy that his usual knapsack has been replaced by this sun and moon and a skull and leaves. So kind of balancing of opposites here. You can kind of see the contents of the universe inside. We have the Magician. This is one of the cards I've seen previously, and I very much like the concept of the mask for the Magician. I don't know if it's necessarily picking it up on the camera, but I really like the sheerness of the cloth hanging up behind the High Priestess. It really emphasizes the veil nature of that symbol. And we have the Empress with some beautiful, sumptuous colors. And the Emperor. And I quite like the background of this Emperor. Shows a very regular sort of tufted grid pattern. So you get kind of an extra emphasis on the rigidity, the foundation that the Emperor represents. And next, the Hierophant. Very Pope-like in this interpretation. And the Lovers. Now, you don't have the angel necessarily in this card, but I really do enjoy this serpent imagery that we have going on. This is very much a depiction, I think, of Adam and Eve in the garden. Okay. And the Chariot. Very interesting that the charioteer himself seems to be a statue. Somewhat armless, although we do have a hand coming out here, but it seems like the arms are not there. And we have Strength at number 8. Okay, that's interesting. So we have a Strength card at number 8, and we also have a Justice card at number 8. We'll put these aside and see if we're offered alternative options for the 11th card as well. And we have the Hermit. The Hermit is my tarot birth card, and I really enjoy this depiction of the Hermit. Rather than being out in the elements, he's kind of hunkered down with a deep soul-searching look about him. We have the Wheel of Fortune. I enjoy the imagery of the cornucopia kind of spilling coins, which then becomes the wheel, and we have the depiction of the astrological signs around the wheel. She's standing here on some sort of horned serpent. Okay, so that's what I thought. So we again have a Strength and Justice card as 11. So you can choose which position you want your Strength and Justice cards in. It's a very interesting and appreciated touch to this deck. We have the Hanged Man, kind of a very odd, contorted configuration. His head is even turned around 180 degrees. And we have the Death card, and he has a super creepy grin on him. And unlike traditional Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism, it looks like the woman and child are depicted as dead in this card. I do, however, enjoy Death's harp hourglass. It's maybe some other musical instrument. I'm not really sure, but it's quite interesting. We have a very bright temperance card. And we have the devil. A very eerie depiction of the devil, although it's kind of interesting that the devil himself seems to be in chains. And if you can see, it almost looks like there's a king stuck inside the devil. Very creepy, very interesting devil depiction. And we have the tower, and this symbolism very much reminds me of the story of the Tower of Babel. We have the star card. And we have the moon. Much more traditional depiction with the dogs, the towers, the crab, in this case instead of a lobster, and the river going up between the towers. And the sun card with not one, but two creepy babies. Not riding a horse this time, but still quite creepy. And that sun almost looks a little bit sad instead of joyous. Very interesting interpretation of the sun card. And we have Judgment. I do like the way that it shows both a king and just kind of some regular guy being brought to life again. So we're kind of all equal in the rebirth process here. We do, however, have a creepy demon devilish character coming out from behind the angel, going for the crown. And to finish off the majors, we have the World card. Interestingly, there's no depiction of a human figure in the middle, which I really like. And we do, of course, have the four representatives of the elements here: the bull, the lion, the eagle, and the angel. Okay, now we're going to get into the minors, because I know that there are people out there that enjoy looking at them lined up against each other. I'm going to at least lay out the four suits so we can see all the aces next to each other. So it seems that Alexander has put these not in suit order, but in order by the number, which is very interesting. So we'll take a look at the aces, and then I will lay them out so we can see them next to each other. So this is our Ace of Pentacles. Very material, very structured. We've got the agricultural aspect down here with some sheaths of wheat and a bull. We have our Ace of Wands. Let's move that over there and over here. Ace of Cups. And if I can get us to focus here, the Ace of Swords. And we again have the representatives of each of the elemental suits showing up here in the aces. So we have the bull for pentacles or earth, the lion for the wands or fire, the angel on the cups or water suit, and the eagle on the swords or heir suit. Given the way that the deck has been packaged, I might as well continue showing you cards and placing them on their respective piles. We have the Two of Pentacles. Some very precarious balancing going on there. The Two of Wands. The Two of Cups. The Two of Swords. I really like this card. Lots of crossing going on here. Lots of decisions to be made. The Three of Pentacles. Very similar imagery to the Rider-Waite-Smith, but kind of missing that emphasis on collaboration as you find in the normal Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. The Three of Wands. The Three of Cups. A semi-traditional take on the Three of Swords, although I like the heart in this case is a shield, and we have a Christ-like figure here at the bottom. Probably not Christ-like, but actually supposed to be Christ. And Four of Pentacles. Love the abundance shown here on the Four of Wands. The Four of Cups. Much more daydreaming quality to this one than I might normally pick up in the Four of Cups. Four of Swords. The Five of Pentacles, quite traditional in imagery here. Five of Wands. You can kind of see the pentacle here much more pronounced than it is in the normal Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. The Five of Cups. The Five of Swords, notably missing two other figures, so you really only have one here to relate to. You do really get the charity feel here from your Six of Coins. And we have the Victory Parade here in the Six of Wands. We have the Six of Cups. Very much get the childlike wonder and play from this card. And the Six of Swords. It's kind of interesting to note this sea monster kind of lurking under the water without looking too ferocious, almost like he's buoying up that boat. Very interesting. The Seven of Pentacles. The Seven of Wands. The ferocious fending off of those attackers really coming through in this depiction. And the Seven of Cups. I'm not really feeling the decision quality of this card. The Seven of Swords. Much hastier retreat in this card than I'm normally used to seeing in the quite sneaky Seven of Swords thief in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And the Eight of Pentacles. And the Eight of Wands, taking on a very decidedly warlike depiction here with all of these weapons. the Eight of Cups. There is definitely the sense of the leaving behind and the stepping out into a new adventure here. This seems much more definitive and entrapment than I'm used to seeing in an Eight of Swords. Now we have the Nine of Pentacles, the Nine of Wands, the Nine of Cups, and we really feel the anguish here in the Nine of Swords. We have the Ten of Pentacles, which is interesting in that it doesn't depict the usual family scene from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And I'm definitely feeling the burden here in the Ten of Wands. He's also very precariously perched upon a very high mountain on one foot. I like this card. The Ten of Cups. We still have the rainbow incorporated up here, but we don't have the children playing as we normally see. And creepy Deathface makes a return in the Ten of Swords, although much less joyous than Death of the Death card. Seems like a very painful situation to be in, that's for sure. I'm also kind of struck by the background similarity on all of these tens. It's kind of an interesting choice of this kind of eye shape going on. I'll have to look into that. Okay, and now we get to the court cards, and we start, of course, with the Page of Pentacles. The Page of Wands. The Page of Cups, and the Page of Swords. We have the Knight of Pentacles, looking very stalwart, but lacking movement. So it looks like that's going to be a constant factor in the Knights, is that they lack the movement quality shown normally. We have the Knight of Wands. I do like the greenery here, kind of that life force being depicted. The Knight of Cups, looking very pensive. We have the Knight of Swords. We have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Cups. And the Queen of Swords. And finally, the Kings. We have the King of Pentacles, again showing the bull here. The King of Wands, showing the lion. Interestingly, this looks like a lion pelt, so maybe symbolizing that they've mastered their element. I guess this bull here, the bull head here in the King of Pentacles, also looks kind of dead. The King of Cups, interestingly, decided to show a dead fish and not a dead angel on this card. Oh, and now we have switched it up, and we have the angel on the King of Swords. Looking kind of dead there. That's an interesting choice. And then we have this extra card, which I will have to read up about because I'm not sure why it's here, but it's almost like a shower curtain over a frame. Interesting. Overall, I would say I'm very pleased with the art in these cards. There is a lot of symbolism and imagery to work with in readings, which is something that I really enjoy. I also really like that these seem like vibrant, modern reinterpretations of medieval illustrations. So as you can see, this deck is fairly thick. The cardstock is thick, but very flexible. And I like the semi-gloss coating that the cards have. It gives them a really nice feel in the hand. So, as always, we're going to try shuffling with the deck. And yes, even though it was a fairly pricey deck, I am still going to rifle shuffle. It's what I do. I will say that the deck is very tall, and so it's kind of at the extent of where my hands are comfortable with rifle shuffling. It does rifle shuffle very nicely though. And because of that height, overhand shuffling in this direction may be a little bit difficult for most people, as it's a little difficult for me. Unless you have big hands, you may want to overhand shuffle in this direction, which, as you can tell, I'm not very good at. So as I like to do at the end of these unboxing videos, let's give this deck a good shuffle and then draw a card to see what advice this deck has for us today. Okay, as you may have noticed if you watched me shuffle there for a bit, there were a few hiccups with the size of this deck for me and the size of my hands. So this is it's almost as long as my hand is. And so that makes it quite difficult to rifle shuffle and to grab onto for this side shuffle. So I feel the need to shuffle it a bit more, so we'll be back. Okay, I think it's finally time to draw. So let's see what advice the deck has for us today. And we have the Page of Cups. I would say no matter what we're approaching in our lives at this moment, we should make sure to include and engage our imagination in that endeavor. Don't be afraid to play with new ideas and let your creativity run wild. And finally, heed the call of your emotional, intuitive side. So that's been my unboxing and first impressions of the Tarot by Alexander Daniloff, 2012, 2nd edition. If you're interested in obtaining a copy of this deck for yourself, or any of the other decks or products that Alexander Daniloff has available, I will leave a link to his website in the description box below, and I'll also leave a link to this deck in particular. Do note that in order to purchase from Alexander, you will have to email him. His email address is provided on the website, along with information about how to purchase his products. He will then either give you a quote for which you can pay through PayPal, or he can send you a specific request for payment through PayPal as well. Overall, my experience of dealing with Alexander was absolutely fabulous. Very, very quick response time, and the shipping once I paid was practically instantaneous. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. It really wants to focus on the cards underneath and not on the card I'm talking about.